With thousands of people sharing cool different exercise ideas on social media, it's hard to know which one is best. Today we're going to talk about how to optimize your performance training so that you can get better results in less time. My name is Shayan Safar. I'm a doctor of physical therapy, a board-certified orthopedic clinical specialist, and the owner of Unity Physical Therapy. I'm also a professional stuntman, breakdancer, and competitive martial artist. In my lifetime of training and now as a medical worker, I've seen thousands of really wonderful exercise ideas. The problem is not a shortage of ideas, the problem is picking the right one. So let's get straight into it. This is going to apply to anybody who is trying to get better at a specific skill, sport, or even rehabilitate an injury. Now, everyone's body and circumstance is different, what they're trying to do, what their goals are. So today we're going to talk about general principles that you can apply to yourself. However, it's always a good idea to get evaluated by an MD or a physical therapist first so that you can make sure you're doing this safely and correctly without risking injury. So how do we organize our rehab journey? A great physical therapist and teacher, Skolpan Avasapun, introduced me to what's called the F.A.S.T principle. Now, F.A.S.T is an acronym, with the F standing for flexibility, A for activation, S for strength, and T for timing. What's really cool about this acronym, it's a stepwise approach, meaning first we go with F, once we've got F down, then we go to A, once A is down, then S, and then T. And so it gives us an organization to make our journey very linear. Let's start with F. F stands for flexibility, which quite simply means, do you have enough range of motion to do the task that you want to do? For instance, if you're trying to squat, whether it's heavy or even just your body weight, if you don't have enough range of motion in your ankle, your hips, or your knees per se, no matter how strong you are turning on the right muscles, or even if you're doing it with the correct timing, you're gonna compensate or not get enough range of motion. There's essentially two things that are gonna happen. One, you're either not gonna go your full depth, which over time is gonna get you stiffer, and you're also gonna be robbing yourself of the opportunity of getting more out of your training session. Number two is you're gonna compensate. You're gonna try to go all the way down, but for instance, if your ankles don't have enough dorsiflexion, you're gonna shift over, maybe even round your spine, and that's gonna cause some injuries down the road. This is so important because your body will always take the path of least resistance, which means if your ankles are really stiff and you're trying to squat all the way down, your body is not gonna just push through the ankle stiffness and keep working on the ankle stiffness. What's gonna happen is it's probably gonna round the back because your back is probably more flexible than your ankles. And so the more and more you squat, you keep rounding your back over and over, your ankles continue to get stiff, and you're likely gonna lead to an injury in the back. Now, luckily we have some normative values for how much each joint should have what range of motion. However, everyone's anatomy is different and the goal and task that they're trying to do is also very different as well. So these normative values are a good launching platform, but that doesn't mean they're the only thing we should consider. For instance, with a full depth squat, I want my athletes to have at least 120 degrees of hip flexion, 45 degrees of internal and external rotation, full knee extension and flexion, and ankle dorsiflexion at least 5 inches to wall. However, everyone is different. Your bone length might adjust some of these numbers. That's where it's a really good idea to have a physical therapist evaluate you so they can see how much range of motion you need and what you have and how to improve it. Now, we've got enough flexibility, let's move on to A, which is activation. What that really means is, are we recruiting the right muscles? Now, I know it sounds silly, right? If you're gonna squat, your muscles are gonna turn on. You're absolutely right about that. However, a lot of these motions have a wide range of muscles that need to all work together like a symphony. And we have these big prime movers in our body, like our quads, our hamstrings, our TFL. They're really good at lifting a lot of weight because they generate so much torque since the muscle's so long. However, they're not great stabilizers. Because they're so long and generate so much torque, they'll lift the weight, but not necessarily super clean. This often can put a little irritation on your joint, or one muscle is being overused and can lead to some tendonitis. These stabilizers are notorious for turning off. Whether it's because we've been sedentary, recovering from an injury, or we're just learning a new skill, our body doesn't like to use these stabilizers because, well, they do a good job, but they're not super efficient, and our body's always trying to save energy. However, if we want to be effective, it's really important that we turn these on. This will help you train better and minimize your risk of injury. So for instance, let's go back to the squat example. Your body will probably turn on your quads, your hamstrings, your calves. Oftentimes what happens in the squat is people don't get good glute activation or even those deep stabilizers called your go-go cue. This can lead to some irritation on some of those muscles or even your back or hip. If you get those muscles turned on, the good news is not only are we doing a cleaner squat with less likely for injury, we are also getting more out of our lifts. We're turning on more muscles, which means we're gonna be able to put up more weight which means we're going to have a better training session. So we've got enough flexibility, we've turning on the right muscles. Now we got to move on to S, which is strength. This is really simply, can those muscles lift as much as they need to lift? It's kind of like a math equation. If you're trying to lift 300 pounds, can all those muscles that are involved in that lift add up to lifting 300 pounds? This is where I love using a handheld dynamometer at the clinic, because you can actually put a number on someone's strength in that position. It gives us a really good insight to see if there's side-to-side differences or if they just generally don't have enough strength for something that they're trying to do. Now, this doesn't have to only apply to weightlifting. For instance, with walking, if one of your glutes doesn't have enough strength, your hips are gonna drop, and over time, this is gonna put some strain on your back. You can think about this for any sort of skill that you need. Now, we've got enough flexibility, we're turning on the right muscles, those muscles are strong and can do what we need to do. The last one is timing. Timing you can think about is everything syncing up and moving as it's supposed to? If we go back to that squat example, you're supposed to have your hips hinged first before you start bending your knees. Same thing on the way up, you should lead with your hips and then your knees. You can see if I lead with the knees, it looks kind of goofy, and I definitely wouldn't want to be putting 300 pounds on my back when I'm doing it like this. The thing is, as the tasks get more challenging, whether it's more weight, more repetitions, or even more complicated, that's where it gets harder and harder to make sure that we're timing and doing everything right. You can see if we jump ahead to timing, but we don't have the flexibility, it doesn't matter. If your ankles are stiff, your hip is stiff, you can try and sync it up all as well as possible, but you don't have the room in that joint to just do it cleanly. If you're not turning on the right muscles, it doesn't matter if you time it all well, those muscles aren't on, it's not gonna look good, you're not gonna get as much out of your lift. Same with strength. So this allows us to sort of have a stepwise approach. You can break down what skill you're trying to get better at, and then you can ask yourself, okay, do I have enough range of motion for that? Okay, what are the muscles that need to turn on? Are those muscles strong enough? Okay, then now I just need to practice doing it well. This way, when you're getting bombarded with a bunch of ideas, you can narrow it down, because we don't want to waste time. We want to get results. And quite frankly, I like to get results with less effort, because I'm going to put in that hard work. Why not get more out of each unit of work I put in? Now, I know some of these things are more abstract and I didn't really touch on how to improve them. I'm gonna make separate videos on how to work on each one of those phases. I just wanted to introduce you to this general principle that I use when I'm deconstructing my athletes' goals, and even myself if I'm trying to learn a new skill. Because I want to minimize my chance of injury, and I want to make sure I can do this thing as quickly as possible so that I can move on to another skill. And it's kind of hard to sometimes know, do you have enough flexibility? Are you turning on the right muscles? Are those muscles strong enough, and are you timing it well? And that's where having a physical therapist or a coach by your side is a really good idea. Obviously, as a physical therapist, I can measure all those things, and if I see anything that I think is a little off, that's where I can always refer to an MD to see if we need further follow-up. You don't need to wait till you get injured. I always tell my athletes, waiting to see your physical therapist when you're injured is like waiting to talk to a financial advisor when you're in debt. Instead, if you go to someone when you have a little bit of money, they can tell you where you have some leaks in your portfolio and how you can make that portfolio better. Just like money, your performance will compound over time. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. For more videos on performance wellness training, follow us on Instagram at UnityPTLA. And if you want more information, go to our website at unityphysicaltherapy.com so that you can get evaluated and we can help you achieve your performance goals. Thank you guys, and see you next time.